Hello and welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Holly Worton. I've been an entrepreneur since 1999, and I know firsthand how difficult it can be to build a business without the right mindset. This is a podcast for those of us who struggle with showing up in our business with confidence and authenticity, who resist taking big action because of fears and doubts, who know deep down that it's possible to create something bigger, and yet you're not. This podcast combines powerful strategies on how to upgrade your business mindset, along with practical business tips to grow your business more easily in a way that feels aligned. This podcast features solo shows with me and also interviews with inspiring women entrepreneurs from around the world, including my monthly co-hosted episodes with Joe Casey. My goal is to help you grow your business more quickly and easily by transforming your mindset. For me, mindset work is a lifelong practice, and I want to help you make a habit out of mindset work. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, let's get into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast, episode 239. This is your host, Holly Worton, and I'm back with another solo episode. Today, I'm going to talk about how to quit the comparison game for good. This is something that has been an issue for me. It's been an issue for a lot of my clients. And when I say the comparison game, you know exactly what I mean. It's when you go online and you see someone else has done something amazing and you feel bad about yourself for it. Or you don't even go online. You just have mind crap in the back of your head going, you're not as successful as so-and-so, you're not doing as well as them, your business is shit, you're a failure, whatever your negative mind stuff is that comes up for you. There are so many ways that the comparison game can come into your life, but it fundamentally is all about you comparing where you are on your journey to where someone else is on their journey. Now, the comparison game is not a great game to play because there's pretty much no way you can win it. This isn't a game that usually happens when we achieve something amazing or we do something new and exciting and fabulous and we look at other people and say, oh, look how great we're doing. They're not doing as well as we are. It's the other way around. It's always, or at least every time I've ever heard about it or experienced it, it's always us comparing ourselves unfavorably to other people, putting other people on a pedestal and putting ourselves, down in the basement. So there's no way to win the comparison game. It feels like shit. It's not good for our confidence. It's not good for our self-esteem. It's not good for our business. It's the opposite of a healthy sense of competition. Now, I'm not a competitive person. So in doing sports and fitness kind of stuff, I'm just not competitive with other people. I like to improve my times, my performance, my stuff, but I don't tend to spend as much time comparing myself to other people. And in competitive sports, I never really gave a shit about winning. So and I know I'm not normal in this area. Most people are competitive like that, but that's kind of a healthy sense of competitiveness. You're playing a game, you want to win. Most people do, if you're not me. So that's kind of a healthy sense of competitiveness. The comparison game, however, it's not healthy. It's just you finding excuses, that shitty part of you, that crappy part of your brain that has all the crappy crap. It's that part of you putting yourself down when you compare yourself to other people. So without further ado, let's just jump into this because you know what I'm talking about. So how to quit the comparison game for good. Now, this is something that I can't say that I have mastered. It's something I'm still working on, and I think it's something that's really worth talking about. I was, as usual, browsing through some blog posts before I started this episode when I was making my notes and bullet points and things for what I wanted to say. Lots of people write about the comparison game, but I feel like it's very superficial. I really didn't find anything that dug deeper into the issue and really got to the core of it. So I hope to help dig a little deeper today and hopefully help you quit the comparison game for good. So the way I have organized this episode, there's kind of 3 stages to quitting the comparison game for good. And the first stage is understand it. Become aware of it. So become aware of when your mind goes into that space. When you see other people celebrating something and your mind goes to that place of comparison. Or when you're reflecting on your goals, reflecting on your business, and your mind goes to that place. Awareness is the first step in so many things. You've got to become aware of when you're experiencing this. And I think it can be really useful to journal on this. So maybe keep a page in your journal or just write about what you're experiencing in terms of comparison. Maybe write down the people that you compare yourself to, why you compare yourself to them, what you think you're doing differently. But get that crap out of your head and onto paper. And this might be something, like you said, you want to journal on, or maybe it's something you want to write down on a separate piece of paper and then burn it. That might be a good thing to do too. Go with whatever works for you. But I think it's really important for you to become aware of this, even if it doesn't feel good, and it doesn't feel good. So take a look at what's going on here. Like, what are your fears? Are you afraid that people are going to look at you and say, oh, well, she's not as successful as so-and-so? Are you afraid that people are going to think you're not serious or as professional or as good at what you do? What are the fears that come up for you? And a lot of times these fears have to do with what will people think of me? What will people say about me? When in reality, people are focused on their own journey and not usually thinking too much about what other people are doing. But this is the crappy place that our minds often go when we're playing the comparison game. So what are your fears? What's behind that comparison game? And how does it make you feel? So how do you feel when you're comparing yourself to this person or that person or the other person? How specifically does that feel? Do you feel like a failure? Are you disappointed in yourself? Do you feel like you're never going to make your business work the way these other people do? Do you feel like you'll never have financial freedom the way other people do? Do you feel like your business is always going to be hard, unlike other people's business, which is so easy? How do you feel? Do you feel trapped, stuck, frustrated, angry? What emotions are coming up when you play the comparison game? And what does this comparison game stop you from doing? Like, how does this comparison game keep you safe? How does it keep you playing small and uncomfortably comfortable within your comfort zone? How does this comparison game stop you from doing the things you want to do? And how is it keeping you stuck? That was like 5 different ways of asking the same question. So I hope one of those ways resonated with you. So these are all the questions and more that you can ask yourself to really understand what the comparison game looks like for you, because it's different for everyone. But what is your specific flavor of the comparison game? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? And how does it affect your life? How does it affect your business? How does the comparison game just make things feel crappy for you? So that's the first stage, understanding what your specific type of comparison game is like for you. The second step in quitting the comparison game for good is getting a different perspective. So you've been looking at this comparison game from one perspective, and you need to kind of step back and look at it from a different angle and get a higher kind of bird's eye view of it, because you've only been seeing things from one very, very narrow angle. This other person is amazing. They are fabulous. They are so successful. They are just crushing it. And you are just crap at what you do. You are terrible. You're a failure. You're awful. That has been your perspective, or some variation of that. That's not a good perspective. So let's step back and get a different view of this situation. What does that mean? First of all, realizing that you're only seeing one side of this person's story. You're only seeing the shiny bits. You're only seeing the parts that they choose to share on social media. Now, some people are really good about sharing the good bits, the bad bits. Some people just share the shiny bits. And that's fine, because that's what they choose. But be aware that you are only seeing the side of the story that they are choosing to share publicly. And that probably is not the full story. They may be making a ton of money in their business. They may have a steady stream of clients. They may have a thriving mentorship program. They may have an amazing whatever. And yet underneath that, they're deeply unhappy because they're stressed, because they're having problems with their partner, because they're so anxious that they've got problems with their kid. You don't know what's going on for them. And I'm not saying that everyone who is wildly successful has these problems, but we've all got problems of some kind, big or small. And you're not seeing that because most people aren't talking about those things. So this is one thing that you can realize to get perspective on the situation. You're only seeing the shiny side of this person's story. And if your comparison game is the kind where you're not even getting triggered by social media stuff, but rather you're making this stuff up on your own, it just pops into your head throughout the day, I'm not as good as so-and-so, your mind is making it all up. You have no idea where they are. So that's kind of the first way you can get perspective. Next way is to realize you don't know the backstory. So maybe they just had a $20,000 launch, but they spent $15,000 on Facebook ads and marketing and project management and VA and stuff. You don't know the backstory to how they made what they made. You don't know how stressful it was. You don't know how complicated it was. You don't know how it made them feel. You don't know whether it was exciting and nourishing and satisfying for them or whether it was incredibly emotionally and physically draining and they would never do it again that way. You don't know the backstory. You don't know all the details. And this is kind of like what I said before. You only see one side of the story. You don't know all of the elements that go into this perspective that you have been looking at. And finally, you don't know where they are on their journey. So you know where you are in your journey, hopefully, sometimes, but you don't know where they are. You know, maybe they're incredibly unhappy with their business, even though they're making money. Maybe they're really stressed out. Maybe they're getting ready to throw in the towel because they'd rather just go back to work, even though they're making money. But they've realized they're not cut out to have a business. You have no idea where they are and where they're going with their business. They might be going somewhere that you have no idea. And you also often have no idea what their background is. You know, maybe this is their third business and they've sold the other two businesses because they were so successful. Maybe they've got 20 years of business and marketing behind them, and that's why they seem to have had overnight success. You don't know where they've come from. You don't know where they're going. You don't know where they are on their journey. So it's impossible for you to really compare yourself to them because you don't have all the information. And accepting and realizing and understanding the fact that you don't have all the information should hopefully help to give you a different perspective on this person, these people that you are comparing yourself to. So stop for a minute and think about one of these people that you typically compare yourself to. Now that you've got this different perspective, realizing that you don't have all the information, you don't know where they are on their journey, you don't know the backstory to their success, and you're only seeing one side of their story, the side that they're choosing to show you. How does that make you feel? How can you view this comparison to them differently? Does it make you feel relief? Does it make you feel confused? Does it make you feel happy, realizing that, you know, maybe you're not as bad as you thought? Because maybe they're not as great as you thought? How does it make you feel to realize that you have this higher perspective or wider perspective? Finally, the third step is to take action. And I know this is always the last step in everything I talk about. And the way I see taking action to quit the comparison game for good is a combination of inner action and outer action. So you've got to kind of focus on yourself and then also stop focusing on other people. So those are two kind of different sides of the same coin. So for starters, celebrate your wins, no matter how big or small they are. What did you do well this week? And if you're not doing a weekly kind of review, it's time to start doing that. Now, when you do a weekly review, it can look at like, what went well this week? What might I like to do differently? How can I change things? But in this case, we're going to talk about what went well for you. And what went well for you could be as simple as you got all the stuff done that was high priority on your list. You cleaned out your inbox if that's what's important to you. It could be you had an extra client session this week, or that you had really good client sessions this week, or that you helped one client have like an amazing breakthrough, or you just really enjoyed your client sessions this week. Or it could be you had an interview that went really well. It could be anything. Anything as big or small as you choose. Celebrate and maybe write these things down. So if you journal, write this stuff down, because I find that writing it down makes it kind of more concrete. It makes it clear. It's easier to it makes it more tangible. It's easier to acknowledge when you see it in writing. And again, no matter how small, write it down. So this is really useful to celebrate your wins, no matter how big or small. It doesn't have to be, I had a $10,000 launch this week. No, it could be anything. And going along with this is gratitude work. Now, I know some people have a daily gratitude practice. Some people really resist it. Do what works for you. But if you have no practice at all, try writing down 3 things that you're grateful for today or this week if you do it at the end of the week. Or maybe 1 thing that you're grateful for each day. But there's always something to be grateful for or appreciative of. I have a friend who prefers the word appreciative to grateful. So do what works for you, but celebrate the wins and practice gratitude for the things that you do have, because even during times when we feel like, God, business is shit, or I'm really stressed or overwhelmed, there's always at least one good thing. Even if it's like, I have a roof over my head and clean water to drink and a flushing toilet. Those are things that a lot of people don't have in the world. We often take them for granted, but those are things that can go on your gratitude list, because honestly, they're pretty good things to have. So other types of kind of inner action things that you can do. Focus on your journey. Don't take your eye off your ball. Focus on what you're doing, what your goals are, what you want to do, the things that you love, the things that you enjoy, the things that nourish you. Focus on your journey and on doing the things that you enjoy doing, the things that make you happy, the things that make you love your business. Review your goals. If they're feeling unattainable, then maybe set yourself some smaller goals, smaller milestones that are on the path to achieving those bigger goals. Break things down into smaller bite-sized chunks to make it easier for you to take action, but focus on step by step taking action on your path. Focus on looking at the path ahead of you, looking at where you're putting your feet. It's kind of like having tunnel vision sometimes, but just looking at your journey, rather than lifting up your head and looking at other people's paths. Have you ever noticed that when you're walking down the street or walking somewhere and you're staring at something off in the distance, you kind of get off your path and you might bump into something because you're not focused on where you're walking? So looking at where someone is on their path, where they're walking, what they're doing, takes you off your own path. So keep your eyes on your path and practice some of that tunnel vision. And one of the ways you can do that is, we're going to talk about this when taking the outer action, but not paying so much attention to what other people do on social media. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And a massive part of the inner work of taking action to quit the comparison game is the mindset work, the deep mindset work. So releasing limiting beliefs, reprogramming, enhancing beliefs, positive beliefs, doing energy work to release energy blocks, working on your mindset and your energy system. So take a look at your self-esteem, take a look at your self-confidence, take a look at your self-worth, and work on this stuff, either with yourself or with another practitioner, facilitator, professional. Get help or do it on your own, but work on the mindset stuff relating to the comparison game. So who do you need to be to let go of the comparison game and stop looking at what other people are doing? How do you need to act to let go of the comparison game? What do you need to be doing differently? What do you need to believe about yourself so that you can quit the comparison game? How will it make you feel to quit the comparison game? What's stopping you from quitting the comparison game? Why are you still holding on to it? How is your life going to change once you quit the comparison game? And What do you need to believe about yourself in order to focus on your own path and ignore everyone else's? What do you need to believe about your ability to walk your own path towards your goals? What do you need to believe about your ability to achieve your goals, to have a successful business? Take a look at your mindset. Take a look at the beliefs that you have that are supporting you, that are limiting you, and work on transforming your mindset and getting a new set of beliefs that will support you in keeping your eyes on your own path so you're not getting distracted by what everyone else is doing. And like I said, a lot of this comes down to self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence. These are 3 big things that we need to work on so that we can have the confidence to keep our eyes on our own path and not get distracted by other people. So those are the things you can do to take inner action. In terms of taking outer action, this is a tricky one, and I was debating about whether or not to include these things because essentially what I think is going to help you, and of course everyone has a different way of dealing with things, but I think what helps is to, like I said, keep our eyes on our own path and not pay attention to other people. So one of the ways that I have done this in the past is to just unfollow people that trigger me. And every once in a while I'll realize that I'm comparing myself to a certain person. I just unfollow them on Facebook. I don't unfriend because I like them. It's just my crap that they're triggering. So I'll just unfollow for a while, and then when I realize I miss them, I'll follow them again. But I think that's a really good way of not getting distracted by these people that we know trigger us. So that may or may not work for you. Another thing that you might want to do is take it one step further and just ignore social media for a while. And I've been feeling kind of allergic to social media for a while, but I've been ignoring my Facebook timeline for quite some time. Every once in a while I kind of dip into it, but I mostly just post my own stuff and ignore other people's stuff. And for a variety of reasons. And I've been ignoring Instagram a little bit too. I dip into it sometimes, but not like I used to. So if you're really getting triggered by a lot of people, you can either unfollow those people individually or just stay away from social media for a while and keep your eyes on your own path. And there's a fine line with this because sometimes we have that kind of knee-jerk reaction of going to the opposite extreme and just hiding out in our cave and being a hermit for a while. And I've definitely done that in the past. And if that's part of your journey, great, do it. But it's not necessary. If you can find a happy medium, then that might be what's best for you. But again, everyone's got their own journey on this. And like I said, I've had those ups and downs where I want to just kind of crawl into a cave and do my own thing for a while. So if that's part of your journey, that's okay. So unfollow, ignore, and do whatever you need to do to remove the distractions from your life so that you can keep your eyes on your own path. It's kind of like horses that, do horse carriages in the city and they've got blinders on so they don't get startled by cars and noise and things. It's like sometimes you need to put your blinders on for a while. And maybe you put your blinders on for a week, a month, several months, a year. Whatever, do whatever works for you. But be aware of what you're doing. I think that's the important thing. Be aware of the fact that you've had this need to withdraw a little bit, ignore, block, unfollow, whatever you're doing, and then come back out into the world and find that happy medium that works for you. This happy medium where you can be a part of the world, be a part of the online business world, be a part of the networking world, and yet still keep your eyes on your own path. And I think this 3-part process can really help us quit the comparison game for good. But it's not something I think we can achieve in a day or a week, because I think there's a lot of deep work that needs to go on in the inner action step. There's a lot of mindset work that can be done to improve self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth. And I think that stuff doesn't always get done, in a day, a week, a year. I've been working on this stuff for 4 years now. 4.5 years now. So it's a long process. And I think if you're the kind of person who is dedicated to self-growth, personal development, we're always growing and we're always working on this stuff. So I don't think there's necessarily a goal, like an end of the road, because I think we're always doing it. It's like I always talk about the spiral staircase where you grow and you get up to the next level, and then you grow and you get up to the next level, and then you grow again and you get up to the next level. We're constantly growing. So it's not like, I don't want to give you the impression that it's like you have to clear all the stuff out and then you can have a successful business, or then you can do whatever it is that you're here to do. This is something that parallels normal business action taking. So I hope that's clear. So I hope this was interesting and useful to you. I would love to hear from you as to what the comparison game looks like to you, how you've been playing it, how it's worked or not worked for you, and what are your tips for quitting the comparison game for good. So just to quickly recap, I had the 3 stages: understand it, get perspective on it, like a higher perspective, and then take action. And that's a 2-part thing. So taking both the inner action and the outer action. Again, I would love to hear your tips, and I would be happy to read them out on the next solo episode. And that is all for now. Drop me a line. You can email me at holly@hollyworton.com or find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram and get in touch. I would love to hear from you. And thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, you can please leave a quick review on iTunes. It would mean the world to me. And next week's episode is our 2nd episode with the fabulous Joanna Hennon. This is our co-hosted episode. She's our quarter 1 co-host. And that's all for now. Remember to visit hollyworton.com/239 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the Business Mindset Podcast. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for the topics that were discussed, at hollyworton.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and learn more about business mindset, join my private community for entrepreneurs at hollyworton.com/group. That will redirect you to the Facebook group. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to head over to iTunes and leave a quick review of this podcast. It just takes a minute. Thank you so much.